Good evening and welcome to the September 3rd, 2024 Lower Frederick Township Board of Supervisors General Meeting. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A couple announcements. There was an executive session immediately prior to the August 27th work session, which was last Tuesday, to discuss administrative matters. And there was an executive session immediately prior to today's meeting to receive legal guidance from our solicitor. Township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed after the minutes are approved. The meeting will be posted online on the Township YouTube channel. The link can be found on the Board of Supervisors page on the Township website. It is requested that all persons wishing to speak before the board shall state their name, address, and the subject matter upon which they wish to speak for the record. In the interest of facilitating the business of the board, all persons addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes, unless such time is extended by the chair for good cause. Individuals are requested to remain in their seats and to respect when other persons are speaking. The Board of Supervisors will provide a reasonable opportunity for citizens to comment on any non-agenda items after all agenda items have been addressed, but prior to the adjournment of the public meeting. First item, administrative actions. We do not have any minutes to approve this evening. Next item is treasurer's report.
Okay, so this is our budget performance through August 31st. So for the general fund, total revenue was at $1.887 million, which is $6,219 under budget, up 1.9% from last year. Total expenses through August 31st, $1.762 million, which is $111,054 under budget. I do want to note that the sewer fund balance on the agenda is a typo and is not $355,988. It's actually $663,673. All the other balances do match what's on the agenda. The net income for the general fund is $124,740. The budgeted net income was $19,905, putting us 526% over budget. Revenue is under budget by 0.3%. The township is running on or above budget for most line items. Notable exceptions remain interest and EIT surpassing budget by a total of 15.9%, while building permits and the fire hydrant assessment are below budget by 54.4%. We have received 78.2% of our 2024 budget revenue. Township's expenses are on or close to most budget items. Expenses are over budget by 9.6%. Expenses are under primarily for police wages, health insurance, and legal. Expenses are over for property and liability insurance, admin office technology, building repair and utilities, engineering, public works vehicle repair, and planning, zoning, other service charges. We've spent 62% of our 2024 budgeted expense. During August, the township withdrew 2 of its CDs early that had low interest rates and have reinvested these funds along with additional township general funds to take advantage of the current interest rates. As you can see from the balance, we now have $1.245 million of money invested in CDs. Just for edification of the public and the board, 2 of those CDs are 6-month CDs. One is a 14-month CD and one is a 20-month CD. As far as the general capital fund, the net income is $45,155 with expenses totaling $219,848 so far in 2024. The sewer fund overall revenue is surpassing budget by 33.5% or $325,000. As reported last month, we received our sewer connection tapping fee contribution from the Farmview Estate Prestige Development totaling $311,000 for 42 connections. We've received 38 sewer connection tap-in fees so far in 2024 as part of the Fulmer Road Riverside Avenue sewer extension connections. We have 1 property with 4 ADUs utilizing the payment plan. That's not part of that 38 connection number. Expenses are on or close to budget for most line items. Repair and maintenance overall continues to be well under so far this year, while sludge hauling, utilities, supply chemicals, sewer line extension, and insurance bonding are over budget. The refunds of prior year revenues is for the refunds for dormant EDUs returned this year. Sewer expenses are over budget by 9.6%. The net income is $417,496, which is $248,658 over budget. The fund has earned 106.5 of its revenue budget and spent 66.7% of its expense budget. The transfer to sewer capital was made in August. The final payment to Doley Construction for the former Riverside extension has been made as part of the bills list approval for tonight. A $200,000 6-month CD was opened in August. The sewer capital fund, the flood barrier project was completed in August. The net income so far is $23,879 with expenses totaling $217,225 so far in 2024. Liquid fuels fund has not changed much over the last several months. The fund has earned 100.9% of its revenue budget and spent 61.3% of its expense budget. I don't expect that to change much unless we get snow before the new year, knock on wood. The open space fund, the net income is $25,650. Total available dollars with current allocation for property conservation easement grant and county agricultural preservation is $236,864. Expenses so far have been for EIT commission and appraisals. A $100,000 6-month CD was opened in August and is part of the available dollars. The ARPA COVID Relief Fund, so far in 2024, $100,000 has been spent with $11,203 in interest earned. The total available dollars with the current allocation for the Montco 2040 grant, Zieglerville Road drainage, Coble Park Phase 1, PD remodeling Phase 1, Township Building Generator upgrade, Main Street and Spring Mount Road base repair and stormwater culvert projects is $73,775. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report?
Any questions from the board?
Jason, what kind of rates are you getting on the CDs these days?
The rates are for the 6-month are 5 and I believe 5 1/4. Oh, and did I leave that behind?
That's all right. It's just estimate. That's all I'm asking.
And the 14-month was like 4.85 annual, and then the 20-month was 4.55, I believe. Chuck.
Okay. Thank you.
Much better than what we were earning from the ones that we invested a few years ago when rates were so low.
Great. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to payment of bills. So we have bills for the general fund in the amount of $80,737.24. I'm going to skip over the next one momentarily. In the general capital fund, $7,769.46. For the sewer fund, $56,521.31. The sewer capital fund, $162,697.22. And for ARPA COVID relief, $8,335.71. With the agreement of the board, can we pay those bills with one vote? All right, and the one I've left out is for Saks and Sons Garage. We'll do that separately. So would someone like to make a motion to pay the bills that I mentioned?
Also move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so Supervisor Holter made the motion, Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then secondly, I think, Terry, you're going to recuse yourself. This is.
I will recuse myself.
Thank you. So this is a bill to pay Saks Garage in the amount of $1,860.83. I'll move to pay that bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Holter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously with 4 votes, and Supervisor Sachs recused himself. Thank you. That brings us to professional staff reports. Engineer report.
Thank you. So the first items on my report also appear later on the agenda, so we'll jump over those. The other informational items on my report include an update on Prestige Builders or Farmview Estates, now Lennar. Work is underway at this 42-home development on Little Road. The sediment basins have been installed, one of the landscaping berms installed, and the other landscaping berm construction has started. Work is underway on Little Road to install sanitary sewer pipe and manholes. Blasting activity has been ongoing to loosen rock for excavations interior to the project site. At Melbourne Hill, which is the project on gravel pike between there and Little Road, site clearing and grading is planned to start next week for that project. The Spring Mount Road sidewalk project is currently out for bid and is live on PennBid. Bid opening is scheduled for that project on September 18th. For the Cuddy Dog Park, a concept plan was prepared to address mud at the dog park, and that concept plan will be provided to the park board. At the Sambrick subdivision, I am pleased to report that a driveway pipe has been installed. The trench was backfilled with stone and grass is growing in the disturbed areas. The end of the driveway must still be restored with asphalt to close this matter. The other items on my report really haven't changed since the last report, so I'll pause there unless the board has any specific questions.
Any questions for our engineer?
No.
Chuck, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Go ahead, Dan. Just make sure that it's on, the mic's on.
Now it's on. Dan Orff, Kratz Road. I just would like to, with respect to the ongoing developments, Farmview Estates, and now you say Melbourne is getting underway. This is just a suggestion, recommendation. Knowing how much effort was put in by the board to come up with agreements with the developers that were seen as both favorable to the township as well as fair to the developers. I wonder if we're having, if we have adequate oversight from the standpoint of review of what the developer does before they go ahead with their steps. Because based upon some of the things that seem to have occurred at Farmview, it seems like they move forward on things that were not technically compliant with what had been agreed to with the board at that point in time. And I think things are going to get worse as we get more developments online. So I'm just, as kind of like a something to think about, are we able to get additional assistance in doing site inspection so it can be more proactive as opposed to reactive? Because unfortunately, reactively addressing an issue when it's a development means we can't undo typically what has been done, which wasn't aligned with what was initially on the specs. Because the thing that crosses my mind is we went to a great deal of exercise to make adjustments for Farmview Estates. We made concessions on the size, the distance between the two separate quote unquote developments, the 25 and the 23 lots were supposed to be separated by a much greater margin, but we intentionally pushed them closer together so that we could leave additional trees along the sides to create a bigger buffer for the Byrams and the birds, as well as to keep more of the trees that were there. So what I'm saying is, are we allowed to hire additional help to make sure that oversight can take place? Because it seems to me we're having difficulty keeping pace. I think the bandwidth of our professional staff is going to be pretty stretched, because we already have one development in play. We're going to have a second one, and we could have a third one. So is it possible to hire somebody, I mean, who could check on an almost daily basis? Phones and Zoom work well. You can talk to anybody in the field these days, so that we could find out what the developer plans to do on any given day before they do it, so that if there is a discrepancy between what they think the plan tells them to do versus what the township agreed to. Because we have the township codes, we have the project plan or the development plan, and we also have the various agreements that were negotiated through council and through the Board of Supervisors in executive session, and also sometimes in hearings. So I'm not sure that our technical staff, our professional staff, has the bandwidth to keep all three of those things in mind when they're talking to the developers, so that they don't step over the line. So, I mean, I would ask the board to tell me, let us know, I'm not just speaking for myself, let us know if it is possible to get additional assistance in development overview, because I think we're going to get slammed once we get more into these other two, and I think we're going to have more participation. So,
Thank you.
any comments or any discussion at all? I mean, because
Carol, do
is
you
that
have-
possible? I mean, is it allowed?
So right now, we have inspection on site daily. Every day they are working over there at the Farm View project, we have daily inspection. The work is proceeding in compliance with the approved plans. They did provide the buffers that were agreed upon. It is in compliance with the approved plan. I don't know what information you may feel you have otherwise, but it is in compliance with the approved plan. We hold a pre-construction meeting for these projects, and we walk through requirements at that pre-construction meeting. Now, admittedly, I was unable to attend the pre-construction meeting for Farm View because I happened to come down with COVID that week. But we have held a pre-construction meeting with Melbourne Hill and laid out requirements to them. And I feel confident that we have the team in place to do all the coverage that needs to be done. Behind the scenes, what you might not see, we're providing both daily inspection reports and weekly summaries to the township as in-house administration, so that if the manager receives any phone calls, he knows what's happening at this project as well. So I feel like we do have excellent coverage of this, and we will continue to serve the township in this way. The fact the two developments are practically next door to each other, frankly, makes it even more convenient to provide full-time inspection and oversight to both projects.
Okay, I won't debate you over whether or not every aspect of the plans were executed in accordance to what the plans were. But I know I'm an old guy now. It's possible that my memory is not perfect, but I'm pretty sure we missed the 100% mark on a couple of items. But I'll leave it at that. But to the question of, so you believe that you're out there, somebody's out there meeting with, and you'll be able to do that when we have three different developments underway?
Well, right now, we've got two developments underway. So the third development is a ways away, and I
Okay.
am perfectly confident that with the staff we have now, we are fully covering those two developments. Yes, sir.
Okay. And would it be possible for the engineer's report to spell out the items where there was a discussion required with the developer in order for them to comply with one of the tenets of the plan that was developed jointly between the township and the developer? Because that would be nice to know that indeed that there were issues that were raised and were caught by our site the oversight that our professionals have.
Our daily inspection reports include conversations between the inspector and the site contractor. We literally prepare a report of every single day of inspection out there, and it's delivered at the end of the month to the township. So this, I think we document better than most firms what happens on these projects, and it's all provided to the township.
Yeah, what I was specifically asking for is if there are particular instances where it was necessary to have a more thorough conversation, or even bring something to the board to get their acquiescence into an adjustment to a plan.
No, we did exactly that when the contractor asked to work weekends. It was brought to the board and discussed at the last meeting. So we do involve the board when it's necessary to involve the board. We involve the manager on a near daily basis, but at the minimum on a weekly basis on updates on what's happening out there. So in here, there's a lot of communication about what's going on these projects. It's all shared. Nothing's happening covertly. It's all out. It's all flowing among this group, and particularly through the township office. So I don't know what else we could do. Those inspection reports are literally produced daily. I don't know many other firms that do that. We literally produce an inspection report daily of the activities on that site, of any conversations that were had that seem relevant to record, and we take pictures of the site. So that is happening constantly and ongoing, and we do that on all the construction projects in the township.
Okay, thank you. And again, as I mentioned, I think we have a very good professional staff. So it wasn't a slight to anybody. It's just a matter of bandwidth. And I do think you might run into a bandwidth issue at some point, but I'll let it go at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Go ahead, Diane.
Diane Jorn, Zieglerville Road. Listening to Dan and what he spoke of, I think of it not as much as bandwidth or what each of our staff members are doing, but the role. So when an engineer is working intimately with a builder or developer, you're naturally going to develop a relationship that is going to be friendly. And a regulator, someone, a zoning officer, a code officer, whose job it is to kind of draw that line in the sand. And I'm not saying you can't do it, Carol, because I know you can. But I'm just thinking about the crosswalk that went to Arcadia. And we had our inspector out there. We had somebody from Carol's office. And that inspector knew that things weren't going correctly and that crosswalk got messed up. But nobody was there to say, you must stop now. This is wrong. You don't know what you're doing. That's what somebody whose role is simply to enforce and not to have to work on the intricacies of working with a developer as an engineer. So I think we need somebody in our township, and we used to have a code enforcement officer that was more local, knew more about our community, and LTL's pretty far out there, and I don't know where that person's from. I don't even know their name. So when I think about what Dan just said, I'd say consider that another role is needed. Our manager works with people day to day. You form a relationship where you have to stay friends with your residents to some degree. An engineer works in and out on plans with a developer. It's a different relationship when you're in the role of code enforcement officer. That's what I think of when I hear what Dan's talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. All right.
Allow me to add that I do not do work for developers. I only work for
No,
municipal.
no, we're not going to have a
contractors.
discussion.
So
We're not going to have an argument or, okay. I see a hand up. Okay. LJ, is that Linda?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Do you have a different comment?
Just to kind of expand upon what Dan and Diane are referring to, perhaps, and this is before they even pretty much broke ground. Last year, someone from Lower Frederick indicated that the house had been demolished to the county tax assessment board. And so their tax assessment was reduced hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then once the trees were clear cut a year later, oh, the house still stood. It has since been demolished, yet that represented when everybody else's taxes were raised, they received a substantial reduction in their tax burden to not only Lower Frederick, the county, and also the Perkiomen Valley School District. So again, this is, and I don't really feel that this falls on the engineer, but it falls on whomever from Lower Frederick communicated that a house was demolished when indeed it was not. So there's like another little unfair advantage that these developers are getting, whereas everybody else's taxes were raised, their real estate taxes for this 2024 year. These people enjoyed an additional year of reduced taxes. So I don't know if you can go back after the fact and, you know, have them pay the difference, or it's just another benefit they got from a lack of oversight. So maybe some investigation needs to be done into that matter to find out who from Lower Frederick said, oh no, the house is gone, and allowed the County Board of Assessments to reduce their tax assessment by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Solicitor report?
Nothing, thank you.
All right. Township staff reports. Police.
Thank you. Calls for the month were 318. We conducted 67 traffic stops, and 48 of those stops resulted in citations being issued for various motor vehicle code violations. Officers attended training instructed by Pennsylvania State Police for intelligence operations and other law enforcement matters occurring throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Members of the department will be attending officer resilience training over the next several weeks, which is focused on officer mental health and well-being. Police department was staffed during the Folk Festival weekend. We had no incidents related to the festival activities. We were, again, at this month's concert in the park. I appeared to have a good turnout. We didn't have any problems reported to us or observed. One note for the board, we've received multiple speed complaints along Smith Road. We erected the speed sign in the area of 27 Smith Road. Results of that were 85% of the vehicles traveling through this township roadway were classified as speeding. 42.52% slowed, but still traveled above the posted 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. 57.47% traveled above the speed limit of 25 and did not even make an attempt to slow their vehicle down. So I've been working with the manager as well as the road crew to try to get some lines up there and figure out a way. It's a very difficult area to try to enforce speed the way the road is laid out with the hump. So we're consultation with the road crew, our guys, to try to figure out where the best place to put a set of speed lines to at least make people aware of it. One of the other things that I'd like to report is over the past several months, I've been discussing with you guys about ongoing investigations. I included the news release for the large-scale arrest that began in April. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I know you guys were provided with it. If you have questions, I'd be more than happy to ask or answer to the best I know. What I can say, even though there was an arrest made with having it posted in the news release, other people are starting to come forward, so there may be additional charges for the suspect. So even though he's been charged, it's still an ongoing, but we can discuss it. So, and with that, I'd just like to recognize Dave Milligan, who's our detective corporal, who really put a lot of effort in and got some closure for the victim. And that's all my report I have. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to.
I have a question. I don't think you can answer it, but when is Harrisburg going to allow our municipal police forces to use radar guns?
So I'm in my 24th year, and I've been hearing every year that it's coming this year. So I wish I knew the answer because it would make life a lot
It'd be a
easier.
lot easier to catch speeders if that was the case.
I would echo that.
I don't know what the delay is. It's insane.
I don't want to throw stones, but I think it has something to do with the state police, with their authority.
Yeah, but state police don't enforce traffic on our roads.
Oh,
so-
I know. I think it's a higher than my pay grade.
Okay,
For the
all right.
answer.
All right, thank you. All right, fire company?
All right, Scott Angstead, Fire Chief. For the month of August, we had a total of 17 calls, all sorts of different calls, some big, some small. Lower Frederick Township had 9 in the township, Schwenksville Borough 4, Upper Frederick Township 2, Lower Salford Township 1, and Upper Salford Township 1. Our training activities for the month was hose line advancement, rural water supply operations, and department team building, which ended up being a night that we just kind of took off and threw some cornhole and had a little bit of hoagies and pizzas. Past events for the month were steak night, which was a success, and we had a Michael Kors purse raffle that went pretty good too. We had one big county tanker task force drill that was at Harleysville. We try to do that yearly, and we try to do it on a larger scale. This one was attended probably better than any other one. I don't know how many tankers were there, but it ended up being, I would say, at least 80 firefighters from various companies. The goal for Tanker Strike Force is to be able to flow 1,000 gallons of water a minute to maintain the capability to handle most calls, actually. Anything bigger than that, we would still do the tankers, but we would open it up where we have more portable tanks at a different location to be able to achieve the water flow needed. The current month, again, is 17 calls. Time in service was 24 hours. Year to date, we have 157 calls. Year to date, time in service is 367 hours. Daily log activities for the month, 11 hours administrative, 198 hours training, 11 hours meeting, 240 hours fundraising. Community events, we had 9 that a lot of them were fire police assisting with other community fire companies. And we have a total of 469 hours of activities that were in that group there. Total volunteer hours for the year is 2,144 hours. Upcoming events are Cornhole Tournament, which is going to be October 12th and with a rain date of October 18th. And our next raffle is going to be a restaurant gift card raffle. And the only other thing is we do have the sign up and running. We've had a variety of things on it. So far, so good. And we're looking to actually rent it to people for a week at a time, basically. So, any questions? Yes. No, no. It's really the fire marshal and the chief of police getting involved in that. It's starting to get a little bit dry again, but not anything like it was before. So yeah, we're actually looking pretty good compared to what it was. I mean, leaves are a different story, but they dry up, just by dropping on the ground, basically, yeah, so. You're only allowed to burn weekends too, and it's a certain time frame too, so. Yeah.
I have a question for Scott. This is Chuck Yeiser.
Yes, Chuck.
Yeah, looking at your report for the month, it looks like you had 2 separate calls at the same address, and it was labeled as a woods/field fire on 2 consecutive days. Is there, without getting into specifics, is there anything unique there or lessons learned, or as you know, we're working with an
That was
ordinance?
actually officer's investigation. It was for the same location, and the fire marshal and the chief of police are looking into that, actually. It's a little bit of a neighbor dispute up there.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
okay. Thank you.
Ambulance,
Nothing from the ambulance yet, or this month.
Public Works,
So for the month of August, the Public Works Department formed the following in addition to the routine operations. They did 5 sump pump sewer inspections for UNOs, approved 2 driveway and 3 road opening permits, paved and crack sealed the storm pipe replacement on Alexander Drive, assisted with the August current concert in the park setup and breakdown, moved the lockers in the new PD locker room, had startup and training for the new generator at the Delphi lift station, and had training for the flood barriers recently installed at the sewer plant.
I have a question on that. So follow up from last Tuesday's meeting, I think we heard from the park board that there's some things in the park that could use some help from the public works. So I don't want to get in the middle of how the schedules work, but make sure that we're also coordinating public works with the park board if that's not already going on for some of the maintenance.
Okay.
And I know they have a
You're
meeting
talking about the
coming up.
repair, the actual repair stuff.
Whatever the park board could use some help with to get things where they need to be.
Okay.
Jason, this is Chuck. I don't know how easy it is to show, but there's some pictures with your Public Works report, and just for the public to see what a nice job Public Works is doing with the police department renovation. If you can screen share that,
Oh, you know what?
or if you can't, that's fine too. If you don't have it, I don't want to drag things out. I just thought maybe you had it queued up. So it's looking really nice down there. It's for those of us who have been down there and done the tour, this is definitely a lot nicer working environment than what was there. So thank you.
all right, Township Boards and Commissions, EAC,
So we met on August 12th, and the Green Energy Committee will be looking into ways to encourage and incentivize green building in our township. The Stormwater Committee met with the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy again at a township stormwater basin, and we tagged invasive and native plants. This is a basin in our township which is not mowed and demonstrates that natives can thrive in these types of environments so that they serve multiple purposes of slowing water, infiltrating water, and providing habitat for pollinators and wildlife. We found groupings of swamp milkweed, ironweed, jewelweed, and a lot of bees and butterflies were flying around there. There are invasives, not overwhelming, surprisingly, but chiefly the Bradford pear is appearing along the perimeter of this basin and starting to move inward. We are thinking that a volunteer project for invasive removal and a little bit of clearing the infiltration where it inflows can be done with volunteers, like a scout troop residents or something like that. The EAC continued to review the township's property maintenance code for weeds. That's section 111.2Q, which applies only to lots under 1 acre. and pertains to the height of the allowed grass or weed growth. The code currently doesn't differentiate for the allowed heights of native grasses and plants. The council has asked our manager, Jason, for some basic information about the number of complaints made per year under this code, what type of areas they primarily arise from, such as open lots, abandoned properties, high-density housing areas. And we will continue our discussion and hope to provide some recommendations to the board. The Birdtown EAC would like to thank the Public Works Department, and there's a picture of the beautiful job they did putting up the bluebird boxes. Those are two that are in the Cuddy Meadow, and there's one in Colonial Park. Bluebirds like to have their boxes about 5 to 6 feet high, facing east in an open meadow area, and that's exactly what the Public Works did. Those two are about 15, 20 feet apart because the ever-present wren can make a house in one and leave the bluebirds to have the other. And our Did You Know This month, as we enter the fall migration season, is a link to the Lights Out program that encourages people to turn off outdoor and non-essential lighting from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. now through November 30th. This is to help reduce the hundreds of millions of bird deaths each year from building collisions. Artificial light draws birds down from their usual altitudes. This was surprising to me. They fly and can fly at 5,000 to 20,000 feet up. But that changes when they're over a lot of lighting. You can go to Birdcast Info and monitor the number and species of migrating birds flying over Montgomery County each night. And I checked it last night. We had 270,000 birds flying over our heads at an altitude of about 1,700 feet. And it also tells you what kinds of birds are going overhead. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to leave that on.
Thank you. Open Space Committee? Okay. Park and Rec, I don't think they've met in September either.
I have a report, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, correct. Due to the holiday, our September monthly meeting will be next Monday at September 9th. This also conflicts with the EAC meeting, so we will be meeting off-site at Cuddy Park Pavilion, weather permitting, and we will not have Zoom capability. We did enjoy a well-attended concert series this year. We didn't have any weather issues, knock on wood. And we thank Jason and the Public Works team for their facility preparation and cleanup assistance on all of the concerts. And also the fire police for their support in helping to safely park our public up in the back there. It helps us a great deal and it keeps everyone safe. We have set the calendar for concerts for next year and we'll be starting selection and contracting at our next meeting. We have 3 events coming up in September. Movie on the Mountain is scheduled for this Saturday, the 7th. This is a collaboration between Upper Frederick, Upper Salford Townships and Spring Mountain Adventures and ourselves. The gates will open at 6:30. It's located in the lower lot of Spring Mountain, right across from Foy Park, across the creek there. So you can bring the family and tailgate. There'll be free popcorn, free face painting by Engage Arts, and free glow sticks. And we'll have Mr. Softy there. We are watching the weather for this Saturday. It's not looking good. So the rain date is Saturday the 14th. So just mind our Facebook page and we'll keep everyone apprised of what's going on there. Secondly, we have our first walk. Come join us for some exercise. Walk on a section of the Perkiomen Trail and learn about the history of that section of the Perky Railroad that ran along that route. We estimate a 2-hour walk led by speakers from the Perkiomen Railroad Historical Society, starting at Foy Park parking lot at 10 o'clock on Saturday the 14th. The rain date for that is the following Sunday, the 15th. No registration is necessary. Bring water and hiking shoes and come enjoy a nice walk.
And again, check with the township Facebook page for any more information or updates. We also have a book club meeting September 21st at Cuddy Park Pavilion at 10:30, rain or shine. The book this month is West with Giraffes by Linda Rutledge. We have free refreshments, and Becky and Katie always lead an engaging discussion and do a really terrific job. Crystal gets us great food. The team does a really good job with these, so I thoroughly enjoy them. And I want to thank everyone who have donated books for our little libraries. We put out the ask, and your donations have exceeded expectations. At this point, we have a good supply of books to work with, and we greatly appreciate everyone who donated. And just in follow-up, coming up, October 5th is Fall Fest at Foy Park, noon to 3, and October 20th is the Trunk or Treat. Now's the time to sign up for that with the police department. October 20th at Foy Park, noon to 3 also. And that's all I have to report. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to entertain.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, Planning Commission? Okay, so for the public, there's no report from the Planning Commission because their meeting did not take place. All right. That brings us to the business portion of our agenda. The first item is a memorandum of understanding between our police department and the Perk Valley School District. Are you going to take that, Peter? Or is Jason going to take it?
I can take this.
Okay.
This memorandum of understanding actually was brought to our attention in July 2023 through Chief Cass. At that time, the school district was asking our PD to sign an updated MOU. Per Chief Maxey at the time, this had been done previously through the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. That practice ended with the current DA. At that time, I was able to confirm in the June 2017 BOS minutes, this was the last time the township signed the document. Once we received the document from the school district, I passed it on to Peter. And this topic's actually been on his report to the board since July of 2023. He reviewed and edited the document, and this was passed on to Dean Miller, who is now chief of the PV School District Police, in August of 2023. We did not hear from them again until November 2023. And then in August of this year, Chief was contacted by Chief Miller regarding the MOU, which had apparently been signed last summer by the school district representatives, or at least the original version was based on the dates in the signature page. Peter confirmed that current document that you have is what we provided to the school district from us last year, other than the subsection D, which actually has the signature page for the state police barracks, as pointed out by Chief, which Peter says is of no consequences. His recommendation is that we can move forward with signing the document.
I have not read every word of this, but I know that there was a situation in the past where our police provided support and spent time and energy. Is there anything in here that allows for compensation for that time and energy, if it's more than just showing up in an emergency?
I would say with not that I reviewed, I might have missed it, but I do know with them having their own school police, a lot of the problems are handled internally. We're only we're there every day for arrival and dismissal. At this point, unless I missed something reviewing it, we're there in a support role if they have problems in the school. I know outside of the school, obviously we become involved with it, but everything on the campus falls within the purview of the school district police.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the board? So we're looking to approve signing this. And our police chief is going to sign on our behalf. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any discussion from the board, or would someone like to make the motion?
This is Chuck Geiser. I mean, I went through the document. I didn't see anything that I thought was inappropriate, and our solicitors looked at it, and our chiefs looked at it, and Jason's looked at it. So I would be happy to make the motion that we sign the memorandum of understanding with the school district.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so Supervisor Yiser made the motion and Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Great. Next item is the sewer extension project Doley construction payment release number 8, which is the final release. And that would be in the amount of $111,608.50. That amount was verified by our engineer in a memo dated August 20th, and that is for the Lower Frederick Sewer Extension Project. Does anyone have anything to add to this, or are we ready to vote?
You covered it perfectly, thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Bob Burns, Zillerville Road. Was the change order issued for the paving that Saks and Sons had to do on Hollow Bush Lane, deducted from the last and final change order approval for this Dolly?
Yes, that was addressed during the change order process back then, exactly.
Okay, it was never mentioned before, so I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if no one else has any issues, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to authorize release of funds for payment number 8 in the amount of $111,608.50 to Doley Construction Corporation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item is the payment release for the sewer plant flood barrier project, and that's to Dane and Son Construction, payment number 1. And that is for $78,786 to Dane and Son Construction. That is for payment number 1. The total contract sum is $87,540, so this is minus the 10% retainage. Just curious, have those doors been tested?
So the flood barrier system was installed just this month at the wastewater treatment plant, and it consists of mounting hardware affixed to the wall on either side of the doors and fast logs, which are stackable pieces that are individually stacked and locked onto the mounting hardware in advance of a flood event. The installation is complete, and this is the 90% payment with a 10% retainer until we get maintenance bond and final documents. We put up some components of the doors. Public Works actually has it on their schedule within the month to install all the pieces and make sure they all fit together, and really check their timing on how long it's going to take to put these up, so we can do that for planning too. So yeah, the final check of installing all of these at the same time is coming this month prior to that final payment.
Thank you. I know that last time we had a flood event, a lot of the damage was due to the water coming in, so this should prevent that.
That's exactly correct. The Hurricane Ida flood levels were just extraordinary, and if we had this system in place, we could have protected that plant.
Great. If there's no questions, would someone like to make a motion to authorize that release of funds?
I move to authorize release of funds for payment application number 1 in the amount of $78,786 to Dane and Son Construction, verified by the value engineering memo and summary sheet dated August 23rd, 2024 for Lower Frederick Sewer Plant Flood Barrier Project.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item is a stormwater O&M agreement approval for 13 Kratz Road and 15 Gerloff Road. This is which is to approve the O&M agreements and to authorize the chair to sign those agreements on behalf of the board. Any additional comments on these?
These are required under our stormwater ordinance. They're standard form. You've seen this form for the last several years. There's basically, there may be little tweaks to it from time to time, but essentially it's all the same.
Any questions from the board? Are we ready to vote? All right. Someone like to make the motion?
Sure, I move to approve the stormwater O&M agreements for 13 Kratz Road and 15 Gerloff Road, and authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Byrd made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Another easy one next. It's a grinder pump O&M agreement approval. Again, this is a pretty standard agreement. We need it for the stormwater management facilities associated with the project on this property. Any questions from the board on this?
This is actually a grinder pump agreement.
Isn't that what I said? Did I say
Not
grinder?
stormwater, it's septic.
Oh, sorry, septic. Okay. Thank you. You're right. I misread this.
And yeah, once again, it's a standard form. All the people involved in the Fulmer Road extension, they need grinder pumps, have been having to sign this form.
All right, any questions from the board? No? All right, I'll go ahead and make this motion. I move to approve the grinder pump O&M agreement for 207 Fulmer Road and further authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. Do I have a second?
Chuck Geiser will second.
Oh, sorry, Chuck, you have to jump in next time.
All right.
Excuse me. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Oh, next one. Happy news. Appointment of a additional member to the Environmental Advisory Council. And I believe that the EAC has met this person and wants them on the board. Great. Okay, that looks like a thumbs up. So the motion is to approve the appointment of Andrew S.
Mizell.
Thank you, Mizell, to the Environmental Advisory Council for a term ending 12/21/2025.
I'll second.
That'll be
no one made the
31,
motion.
sorry.
Sorry?
12/31.
Isn't that what I said? 12/31/2025?
I believe you said 21, but
12/31/2025. Chuck, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to
Thank you.
appoint.
And
first
thank you. Okay, Supervisor Yiser made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I have a question on the next one. Do we need to vote on this or just have consensus to accept it? The resignation of someone from the park board. I mean, they've already,
Yeah, you just need to accept it. No, you certainly can, but you just acknowledge, obviously, we can't trap the person on the board.
all right, so we have someone on the park board has signified their resignation for a term ending 12/31/2026, so that creates a vacancy, and that is effective today, September 3rd, 2024. That's Ms. Shivani Quinn. Does the board accept that, I guess?
Sorry to see her go.
I know.
She was sweet.
Yeah, okay. Chuck, I'm assuming you're okay with this? And we can't do anything about it?
Yes, regrettably, yes.
All right, so we don't have to vote, so we've accepted her resignation officially. And that brings us to our fiscal year 2025 budget calendar. I think you have a
Okay, so this is for the fiscal year 2025 budget calendar to attempt to alleviate some of the time constraints we faced last year with the short window to adopt this year's budget. I thought we'd get started much earlier this year. September 3rd is fiscal year 2025 budget calendar. I would request that the Board of Supervisors consider any public needs for next year and beyond that may want to consider that may or may not be part of this capital improvement plan adopted with the fiscal year 2024 budget. September 9th would be the manager meeting with the department heads. September 18th-ish, I would distribute the fiscal year 2025 budget draft number 1 to the BOS, to the board. September 24th would be the fiscal year 2025 manager's budget introduction. At that point, ask for the recommendations from the board that are not currently in the 2025 draft budget. From September 25th through October 16th, review fine-tuning of the fiscal year 2025 budget, then redistribute the budget draft number 2 to the board. October 22nd would be the full fiscal year 2025 budget presentation. November 6th, assuming we are on schedule, looking for the board authorization to advertise the budget for the December 3rd meeting. Then from November 7th, make fiscal year 2025 draft budget available for public at the Township Building and online on the website. This will satisfy the 20 consecutive days for public review and prior to adoption. Then the December meeting would be the final adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budget and 2025 real estate tax resolution establishing the millage for next year. My hope is this allows the board ample time to fully review and adopt next year's budget. It also allows for us to move around some of the dates if the board wants. This also gives us some alternative dates, the November 26th and December 3rd, if the board needs more public discussion. If that's the case, we would need to move that December 17th meeting, which we already moved because of Christmas Eve, to a later date to accommodate the 20-day period. I guess, are there any questions?
When we see the first draft of the budget, we also see a draft of the updated capital improvement plan.
Yeah, it's all, it will be
It's
all
all part of the same
encompassing.
thing. Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board about the budget timeline? Chuck, do you have anything?
No, I do not. I thank you, Jason, though, for putting it all together, because now we can see the schedule, and that's great.
All right. That brings us to the end of the business portion of our meeting, to public comment. Go ahead.
Is this microphone on? Yeah, it is. I want to say thank you to Carol for that explanation of how you monitor the construction sites. And I'm real glad to know that you have somebody on site every day, and I'm real glad to know that you make a report every day. This is something that we, the public, don't know about. We don't know the procedures. And you got 3 questions on that topic tonight, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Everybody in the township is really concerned, especially after they saw some of the things that happened in the past, certainly me included. So I want to thank you for giving us that reassurance. And I wonder if you or Peter want to make any comments as to how the procedures that we go through now are going to be effective, and we're not going to see anything happen like the things that did happen in Arcadia, like the violation of the limited disturbances with the boulders and the crosswalk and some of the other stuff that went on. Obviously, you've upgraded the procedures for oversight.
Well, I'll start that and let Peter finish. Peter has prepared development agreements for these projects at a different level than the developers agreements we had before. And I see in those development agreements where he has incorporated language to address problems like the boulders over the fence that we had in a different development. So yes, that has been incorporated into the procedures that are there today. It's been incorporated into the developers agreement that were prepared by the solicitor. So that gives us the ability to enforce them. And from there, I'm going to pass it over to Solicitor Nelson and let him continue that conversation.
Before that, I just want to make a comment. This is a different board and a different solicitor, and we have a different approach towards development than in the past. And we are focused on what they are doing. And yes, we do have a much stronger development agreement.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. You know, from my standpoint, we've adjusted the development agreements to address the problems that were experienced here in Arcadia. That doesn't mean a developer is not going to come up with something new screwy. But generally speaking, I think that, you know, my firm has used these development agreements or a version of them for 30 years. And we've been very successful in making sure that developers do what they're supposed to do, complete what they're supposed to do with no extraneous problems. So hope that helps, Warren.
Any other public comment or from anyone on Zoom? Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Burns, Zieglerville Road. So a while back, I had brought up about the shark teeth. I think you guys all remember that conversation, where the crosswalk is out on Zieglerville Road. So the one sign as you're heading eastbound on Zieglerville Road, the sign should be moved back to where the shark teeth are located. And then coming westbound on Zieglerville Road, there is no sign. So I'm assuming that that's going to be taken care of by the developer. It's in your punch list or whatever have you. And then also, do we have any idea when the developer's going to dedicate the parcel on the corner? And is the vegetation that's growing on there up to par with what the plans called for? Because it looks like just a bunch of neat little weeds with a few blades of grass. Thank you.
The Arcadia Station project is nearing dedication, and the primary issue to be resolved out there are an awful lot of trees that need to be replaced and some bushes that need to be replaced, including on what we call open space A. So that's the primary work to be done out there to close that development. The work that you're referring to in the vicinity of the crosswalk, that has all been installed in accordance with the guidance received from the traffic engineer that designed that crosswalk. So we do not have any additional requirements for the crosswalk area at this time. Certainly, if you want to submit an email to the manager on a concern that you have, I would be happy to look into that and address it. But to my knowledge, at this time, everything is installed in accordance with the specifications provided by the traffic engineer.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Brian Hill, 11 Zieglerville Road. Obviously, the vote on working on Zieglerville Road, the extent of it was obviously voted down in recent meetings, but what is the plan to fix the areas that are made, particularly out in front of my property? What is the plan, or do we have a plan, and when do we plan to execute that plan?
I'm the wrong person to answer that because I was in favor of fixing the road, so I'll let somebody else answer that question.
There was no plan to do no more work there. They shut it down to do anything. Okay, Brian?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
So after that was shut down, I had asked that if the board would entertain that when the work's being done on Springmount and Main Street, that at least, 6, 8 areas on Zieglerville Road could be taken care of so that we can figure out exactly what the depth of the asphalt is, what it's going to take to repair the road for the future. This is common replacement work that can be done by either our crew or by the equipment contractor bid that we have in place. So, we've been waiting since, even though, I don't remember the exact date, Carol, April, when you went out and started painting lines all over, maybe April, May? Yeah, something like that. So we know we have a problem. We know we have potholes that need to be fixed. I think I addressed this issue with cold patch. I'll address it again right now. Carol said it's expensive. It sure as hell is expensive. Cold patch is designed to use in the winter months and when the plants are closed. So if you have a pothole at 9 o'clock at night and the road crew has to go out, they use cold patch. Any other time, the road crew should be going out using hot asphalt. They should be digging the patch out, filling it in properly, using hot asphalt. Not running out there week after week, putting cold patch in that 3 hours after it's put in, it's depressed. So that's the normal way of doing it. Now, to answer Brian's question, and maybe the board needs to step up here, all of us have a problem navigating around the potholes. We either hit them or we go around them when there's not opposing traffic coming and we're crossing the double yellow line. Okay, so it's an emergency issue. It's got nothing to do with, oh, we can't touch Zieglerville Road because we're working on Zieglerville Road when we're trying to get around the prevailing wage issue. That's not the case. It's an emergency situation. The board needs to direct the manager to either have the equipment contractor or the road crew take care of these repairs. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, no more public comment. That brings us to supervisor comment. Any supervisor comment?
No.
All right, meeting's adjourned.